Welcome to the Story Lab. Today, we're sticking with the Star Wars universe, but now with the sequel trilogy. It is certainly no secret that the 3 movies called Episode 7 to 9 didn't please fans. But what if one were to recut and recontextualize the story and maybe re-release it on Disney+? Let's try it out. Here comes the sequel trilogy, restructured as a series. So, this is the idea. The sequel movies have an inconsistent and unsatisfying story. But many of the individual story elements and scenes are great. Could we restructure the story in such a way that it is more consistent and impactful, while keeping most of the material from the movies? We should be able to. Since we are likely going to cut some things, let's also change the format. Instead of 3 movies, the restructured version should be a series with 45-minute episodes. Ideally a recut that a talented fan could even actually produce. That said, we have to put down some principles before starting the project. While we are allowed to shake things up a bit, this should not be a complete rewrite of the story. However, some elements of the story do need to change in order to make it more consistent. Our principle in this case is that some elements may be completely omitted, but not major plot lines from movies, like the Emperor's Return, Kylo Ren's redemption, etc. What we will allow is recontextualizing story elements, changing the timeline of events and adapting the motivations of characters. Okay, listing the ingredients for this experiment should not take long then. It is of course, the sequel trilogy movies themselves. No added scenes, except deleted ones, that were already filmed. Making it all one story. And, just to make that clear, we will have no copies of the original Star Wars movies, i.e. A New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi. The lab is now analyzing this mixture. And here come the results. Star Wars, The Force Awakens series. Episode 1. The series starts out exactly as the movie The Force Awakens does, i.e. with the same opening crawl and the same first act. The major changes occur only from the second episode on forward. The story is as follows: Luke Skywalker has disappeared and instead a new threat is waiting on the horizon, a technologically improved Empire offspring known as the First Order, led by a young Force user named Kylo Ren, who seems to see himself as a successor to Darth Vader. Resistance pilot Poe Dameron gets a map to Luke Skywalker but is shortly after captured by the First Order. He can only escape thanks to the help of Finn, a stormtrooper who deserts the First Order. On the planet Jakku, Finn meets Rey, a scavenger with an uncertain past, who happens to have befriended Poe's droid BB-8, who carries the map to Luke Skywalker. Together, Finn, Rey and BB-8 run from the First Order in a YT-class freighter, which turns out to be the Millennium Falcon. Han Solo and Chewbacca show up to reclaim their old ship, which they do. They then promise to get BB-8 to the Resistance. In the meantime, Kylo Ren contacts his mysterious master, a giant holographic figure, which also reveals 2 things about Ren. He is not the only Knight of Ren around and he is none other than the son of Han Solo and Leia Organa. Episode 2. In the second episode we see how the crew of the Falcon reach Takodana and talk to Maz Kanata. Then, Rey escapes her destiny, running into the woods, where she is found by Kylo Ren, who is attacking Takodana with his fleet. Here we have the first major change: Starkiller Base does not fire on the Republic yet. Instead, Finn, who tried to run away from the fight, returns to Han Solo when he sees the attacking First Order, and out of a concern for Rey. As in the original, Rey is captured by Kylo Ren and then interrogated, while the Resistance is able to recover BB-8 and the other heroes. The Resistance is followed however and needs to start an evacuation immediately. Into the middle of the evacuation jumps a First Order fleet, trying to stop them, and we see part of the opening of the 8th movie play out. The Resistance force is able to take down a major cruiser. However, the base is not destroyed in this version, but rather saved. The First Order does not send a second strike force, because they have another weapon in store, the Starkiller Base. Instead of attacking the resistance directly, they fire their new weapon on the capital of the New Republic, destroying everything and making the resistance's fighter struggle. While these things are happening, Kylo Ren is interrogating Rey with the Force and enters her thoughts, seeing images that shaped or changed her life. But Rey is surprisingly strong with the Force. Not only does she resist, but she actually turns the table and gets a glimpse into the mind of Kylo Ren. There, she sees how Kylo Ren found an ancient Sith wayfinder and traveled to the world of Exegol, where he found the reborn Emperor. These events, in this version, played out before the story started and reveal that the First Order had always just been a facade for Palpatine's plans for the Final Order. Naturally, this is the scene from the beginning of the Rise of Skywalker, but without the part where the Emperor orders him to find Rey. Stunned by the girl's abilities, Kylo Ren reports to the giant hologram that now fritzes between the projected image and the real image of the Emperor. Ren's master commands that the girl be brought to him. This is the most major change about the structure of the story. It is revealed that Kylo Ren was always under the influence of the Emperor directly. Consequently, in this version Snoke does not exist. He is in fact only a projection of the Emperor to fool the officers of the First Order. Episode 3. After the destruction of the New Republic at the end of Episode 2, the Resistance has to act fast in order to take down Starkiller Base, while it is repositioning. Again, the story mostly follows The Force Awakens. Poe Dameron leads a fighter attack on Starkiller Base, while Finn and Han Solo enter the base to free Rey and shut down the shields. Rey is able to free herself thanks to her newfound abilities, and the heroes meet up. All of them encounter Kylo Ren, who murders his father and then fights Rey and Finn, wounding the latter. Rey, to her own surprise, bests Kylo Ren in the fight, before both of them have to escape. Meanwhile, Poe and the other pilots are able to destroy Starkiller Base using only X-Wings, which is necessary, since their bombers had previously been destroyed. For the moment this seems like a major victory, and the Resistance fighters head back to their base to celebrate and regroup. Rey leaves to find Luke Skywalker and finds him on the Jedi Island. But it is not over yet. Kylo Ren returns to Exegol and asks the Emperor for more resources. The Emperor grants this, under one condition: Kylo must bring him the girl, in whom Palpatine seems very interested. Kylo returns to the First Order as its commander and with the Knights of Ren by his side. Rey tells Luke about the First Order and everything. The scene where Luke tosses the lightsaber away does not exist, but Luke does not think the Jedi cannot help. At first, he sends Rey away, but after a talk with his old friend R2-D2, he does agree to teach her 3 lessons. Episode 4. In Episode 4, most of the plot of the movie The Last Jedi plays out. Though heavily shortened, Rey is training to understand the Force with Luke on the Jedi Island. During her training she discovers a special connection between her and Kylo Ren. Luke sees this tendency to the dark side and is scared of it. So, Rey seeks out the cave herself and finds that the dark side cannot give her anything. Her training continues, but she becomes disillusioned with Luke as she learns of his moment of weakness that turned Ben Solo into Kylo Ren. Finally, she leaves. During this storyline, the deleted scene with the party at the caretaker's village could be added in, as it teaches Rey an important lesson and lightens up the dark tone a bit. Meanwhile, Finn wakes up in a medical compartment on the Mon Calamari cruiser. He learns what has happened and that the base on Dekar had to be abandoned. He tries to run away but is stopped by Rose Tico. Shortly after, a gigantic First Order ship appears that is able to track their jumps through hyperspace. Finn and Rose figure out that the tracker must be on the capital ship and make a plan to destroy it. In this version, the rest of this storyline is omitted. The plan is approved by the leaders right away and they sneak aboard the ship with a Resistance slicer. They do manage to destroy the tracker and critically damage the ship at same time. Next, we meet the Resistance. They have already established a new base on Crate. But the First Order is not far behind. The entire Battle of Crate plays out almost exactly as in the original movie. The Resistance asks for help, but doesn't get any. Remember that it is only days after Starkiller Base had destroyed the Republic, so they fight with light craft. The Millennium Falcon appears and saves them. Then the door is cracked. To everyone's surprise, this is when Luke Skywalker appears and stops the First Order long enough for everyone to escape. Then, Luke passes on. Episode 5. The last 2 episodes play out the events from the Rise of Skywalker, but with several more changes and a bit of faster editing, making it feel more like a race between the heroes and the Knights of Ren. The first scenes of the original movie are obviously already used, so the episode opens with Rey's training under Leia. We then learn that the Resistance has now heard from a spy what we knew since quite a while: the Emperor has returned. As in the original, Rey figures out that he must be on Exegol and that they had to find the second Wayfinder to get there. Our heroes set off on their quest to find the Wayfinder. After some adventures on Pas Arana, they do find Oki's ship and the dagger that points to the Wayfinder. In order to interpret the dagger, they travel to Kimi and let a slicer work on C-3PO. There, they also run into the First Order, which tracked Rey thanks to Kylo and the Knights of Ren. In a brief battle, they manage to evade the Perusers and free Chewbacca, who had been captured earlier. The episode draws to its conclusion when our heroes are making their escape of Kylo Ren's ship and are confronted by him in the hangar. This is where Kylo drops the final piece of the puzzle: Rey is the granddaughter of Emperor Palpatine. With this shock revelation, the episode ends. Episode 6. In this episode, Rey has to finally find her place in all of this. She is shocked by her connection to the Emperor, but even more so determined to eliminate this threat. Our heroes travel to the Ender system and search the ruins of the second Death Star, where Rey is once again confronted by Kylo Ren. But this time, she beats him, because Kylo was distracted at just the right time by his dying mother reaching out to him. From now on, everything plays out as in the original movie. Rey heals Kylo, who turns back to the light. She then first abandons the cause, only to return to it after some wise words from Luke Skywalker. Thus, she travels to Exegol and confronts Palpatine. Ben Solo, formerly Kylo Ren, defeats the other Knights of Ren and helps Rey take down Palpatine, who draws new power from the 2 young Force users. In the scene where Rey calls upon the Jedi of old, Force flashes of famous Jedi may appear. There are many great remastered versions of that scene out on the internet. Finally, the Emperor is defeated, Ben Solo saves Rey and our heroes celebrate their victory. The last scene of the original, the one on Tatooine, is omitted. The episode ends with our heroes embracing under the X-Wing. And that would be the end of the series. What do you think of it? Let's quickly summarize. Episodes 1, just the first 1.5 acts of The Force Awakens. Episode 2, Rey is captured but is able to resist Kylo Ren, probing his mind in return. Here we learn that Kylo has traveled to Exegol previously and Snoke is just a projection of Palpatine. Also, the Resistance takes down a First Order cruiser. Episode 3, Battle for Starkiller Base. Afterwards, while it seems the Resistance has won, Kylo simply returns to Palpatine and asks for more resources. Episode 4, Luke trains Rey, but she gets disillusioned. During the Battle of Crate, Luke returns and gives the galaxy hope. Episode 5, our heroes try to find a way to get to Exegol, but are chased down by the Knights of Ren. Rey learns that she is the granddaughter of Palpatine. Episode 6, Rey finds her place in the story by choosing to oppose the Emperor. Kylo turns back to the light and the galaxy is saved. Please note that everything presented here is simply the results of an experiment. No part of this presentation is intended as a correction of an existing story or claims to be the real story. The selection or omission of any parts of the source material is not to be understood as commentary, positive or negative, on the original productions. These are simply thoughts and experiments based on existing material, and none of it could be created without the work of all those involved in creating the original works. As with any scientific result, you may utilize any of the story ideas that resulted from these experiments for your own experiments or production, while citing this experiment as its source. It is now closing time for our lab. Goodbye until next time.